I'm Isabel Piedmont Smith, and we also have with us today Susan Sandberg, City Council at Large, and Steve Volan, City Council District 6. The fourth member of our committee is Jim Sims. He's actually chair of this committee, but unfortunately he couldn't join us today. There's a chance he might pop in later, but he has some other issues that he needs to tend to today. So Jonathan, welcome. I wanted to start, because this is a brand new commission of the city, I wanted to just start by reviewing why we created this commission, just to give you the context. So the city council is seeking, oh wait, first of all, I almost forgot. I want to let you know that CATS Public Access Television is recording this meeting. They don't usually record interview meetings, but they are here today, and I hope you're comfortable with that.
Sounds great.
Okay, good. All right, well, the Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission was founded to gain a better understanding of the perceptions of public safety in Bloomington among demographic groups who don't normally have a seat at the tables of power, including in city government. We also seek to improve upon our current public safety system through methods other than traditional policing, learning from programs both successful and unsuccessful tried in other communities. Our goal is to increase the safety of Bloomingtonians, especially those most vulnerable among us. So this is the basis for the CAPS Commission. And if you want to just start by telling us why you applied and why this interests you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I have lived in Bloomington for, I think, 10 years now, and came from Alaska. And I'm actually sitting in Alaska right now at the moment. If you can, we can't see much outside actually, but and I haven't been involved, to be really honest. And I started thinking a lot more this last year about ways that I could get involved. And I have a particular interest or concern in finding ways to help our homeless population. So that probably was my initial sort of motivation. My wife and I live across the street from a park and have met lots of homeless folks and have reached out to them from time to time. And so I think that was maybe my initial motivator. I sent some emails out to people in the city and on the council to say, hey, this is something I want to be a part of. How can I help? And I actually looked through the available vacancies for committees and commissions and selected this one as one that I thought would be really interesting, actually, and also a way that I could just be a part of investing in my community.
Yeah, and I saw from your application that you've worked for a native tribe in Alaska for a long time.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Yeah, I lived in Alaska for about 18 years and moved to Bloomington about 10 years ago, which is where my wife is from or lives. I continue to work full-time in Alaska, actually, but I commute. And so I have typically come back to the village. I'm in a small village called Heidelberg right now, a village of 400 people. And I've typically have commuted about 10 days out of every 6 weeks, maybe, but I haven't been here since COVID. And so this is actually the first time I've been back in the village for a year. So I'm here for a couple of weeks this time, which is a little bit longer than usual. But yeah, I do community development, basically. I do grant writing and economic development and work on a lot of cultural and language programs. The tribe here are Haida people. It's a Haida tribe. And actually, before I worked here for 5 years full time, I'm the only non-native on the tribal staff. And then prior to that, I worked in a different Haida village here in Southeast Alaska for about 10 years. So I've actually been working for Haida people for about 15 years. And then before that, I worked in Native health organizations in Alaska. So I've actually been working solely for tribes for 28 years, I think.
You said the commute, it's hard for me to envision the word commute applying here, but you said it was about 10 days every 6 weeks?
Typically, I come up about a week to 10 days every 6 weeks. So I'm in Bloomington much more than I'm not. I work full time for the tribe, so I work out of a home office the rest of the time. But I'm up here. Kind of depends on what's going on, but usually about a week to 10 days every 6 weeks or so.
Okay. So during this period when most commission meetings are online, I wouldn't see that as a problem. But when we go back to in-person meetings, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I have complete control over my schedule. So I plan my travel months in advance, but I have complete flexibility over when I travel, and so I don't see that as a problem at all. Assuming, especially if we have set meetings,
Mhm.
I have a few weeks notice in advance. I don't think that'll be a problem at all.
Great. Well, Steve, did you have any questions?
I just want to know how big your frequent flyer account is, because you must have mileage out the wazoo.
This last year, I think I'm back to like the cheap seats, but yeah, typically I do. I always have to. Well, now I can go direct Indy to Seattle, so that on Alaska Airlines, so that helps. And then Seattle, catch a can, and then I take a little float plane over here. So, but yeah,
wow.
the miles add up for sure.
Yeah. No, I think, frankly, you're a perfect fit for this commission. I guess I'd like to know a little bit about experience you've had dealing with perhaps homelessness and public safety in southeastern Alaska.
It's a good question. So in the village, I use that generically because I've worked in several villages. Homelessness isn't an issue, to be honest, because everybody just sort of takes each other in. Families are extended. It can be a really frustrating place to work because when family tragedy happens, for example, whether it's homelessness, death, some other kind of crisis, violence, drug addiction, whatever, everybody sort of steps in, everybody leans in.
And that's frustrating?
Well, the frustrating part is everything else shuts down. And so for somebody like me, who's a very sort of driven, kind of mildly type A, like want to get things, and plus I'm only here for a week or 10 days. Right. So I'll come, I want to get things done. And the office will be shut down for 4 days because, and I'm telling you a happy story, but half the staff will be literally building the casket for someone who's passed. A quarter of the staff will be digging the grave. The rest of them are making the church bulletins. And so the reason I continue to work in small villages in Alaska is because I need that sense of like the role that the bigger community plays or should play in the day-to-day lives of people. And I honestly don't get that in Bloomington. So I come here to get that part of me fed where I'm like, oh yeah, this is what extended community really should be.
I can see why you applied to this commission. Like it makes sense why you applied, and I think it would make sense to have you on it. Thank you. Yeah.
So tying that sense of community and that really tight-knit community experience that you've observed in Alaska to public safety, I imagine that public safety is also a community affair in these villages. What are your thoughts as far as public safety issues from what you've observed in the villages and also here in Bloomington?
I'm not sure how many formulated thoughts I have, but a couple, I guess, things. One, I have been I loved in the description of this committee, the idea of doing research and best practices and seeing what other communities are doing. We're not going to recreate something we're not going to create something from scratch because it exists. I mean, whether the model is in a small rural village in Alaska or an urban area in Portland or something, I believe, but I don't know for sure, that there are communities that have found successful ways to sort of broaden the definition of what policing is and should be. And all of us have been immersed in, issues around Black Lives Matter over the last year. And so I think that, we've got sort of a really interesting opportunity right now in Bloomington because, this is part of the national dialogue to be reaching out to other communities, again, big or small, to learn what works and see what would fit for a community like Bloomington. And, I don't have a good sense, we don't, in Alaska, we have what's called VPSOs. They're village safety officers, basically, and they're sort of paraprofessional law enforcement officers, I guess. And our community here doesn't even have one. And so Heidelberg does not have any law enforcement. And so what you were kind of implying earlier is that the community ends up sort of being the law enforcement, whether it's somebody that needs a home or a drug dealer that pulled into town in a vehicle nobody recognizes, or an unfortunate firearms tragedy or whatever. It's just that everybody kind of merges to help, whether it's comfort the victims or deal with the crime or whatever. What that means for Bloomington, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'll be interested just in my own mind to sort of sort through that. Are there applications to what does and does not work in rural America, rural Alaska, to what's going on in a bit more urban setting like Bloomington?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm glad actually that you don't have it clearly formulated in your head, what your vision is, because that's part of what this commission is charged to do, is to talk to people, especially of more disadvantaged demographics, and see what public safety means to them and how they think it can be improved.
Right.
I'm wondering.
It certainly feels like the right of all of us to feel safe in our community. I mean, that I feel clear about. Like, we all have the right to feel safe in our homes and our neighborhoods. I don't know what that means beyond that, to be really honest. So, I mean, I know what it would mean for me, but not for you. So,
yeah, I think that's something to be explored. I think there is a basic similarity, because I think everybody feels like I have a right to feel safe where I am. So that's the starting point. I'm sorry, Susan, Steve, do you want to ask any other questions?
No, I'm delighted to meet with you, Jonathan. I asked to be the silent partner here. I'm primarily listening, taking notes, but we're delighted that you've applied. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo what Isabel has said about, like, this is a new commission, and it's, I mean, I noticed in your application, you mentioned that you hadn't seen anything addressing something like homelessness. And, we've been struggling to figure out where that applies in the bigger picture. Should it have a commission devoted to it specifically? I mean, we're always trying to figure out collectively as a city, what departments should we have, what commissions should we have? And, so this is sort of an emerging problem, or rather an emerging definition, but I'll emphasize the word emerging. We're still trying to figure out, I mean, we're counting on the inaugural members of this commission to help us define the problems, as it were. And so I'm very interested in your perspective from somebody who comes from a community that is very, or at least has worked in communities that are very different than ours. Just the idea that our community is still trying to figure out what we are. Like, are we a small town or a big city? Are we somewhere in between? And how should we respond to that? What would you say to, you've talked interestingly about your work in small villages. You've alluded slightly to Bloomington, your relatively new home. What would you say, like, just based on your observations so far, might be the biggest challenges that we would need to tackle on a commission on public safety?
That's a good question. I've had, thankfully, I guess, very few run-ins with local law enforcement. And I know that policing is bigger than local law enforcement, but, I had a motorcycle stolen one day from my yard in Bloomington, and had a ladder stolen, filed these police reports. And so my exposure doesn't go much beyond that, other than I'll hear things about the city cleaning out all the tents and the homeless people out of Seminary Park, or the city, putting the big spotlights up at the park where we live by, Bryan Park, so that, homeless people don't congregate down there at the shelter. And the things I'm saying may or may not be true. I'm just saying this is, the sort of the rumor. And so I don't, to be really honest, I think on the front end, I'm really interested in learning more about the role that law enforcement plays, and that other components of city government play in not just homelessness, but just around, I'll say safety and security, but I would almost define that as like, how do we make Bloomington the most welcoming place? You know, part of that is feeling safe, but it's like, whether it's, you know, race or ethnicity or gender or living status or whatever, like what can I do to help Bloomington be a more welcoming place where everybody feels welcome? And part of that is feeling safe. So I really am, I like to learn stuff. Like part of the role of like being a grant writer and a program developer and stuff is like, I have to step in, be like a quick study, like learn the jargon, learn the, whatever it is for I could be working on a city hydro project, or I could be working with traditional carvers, teaching kids how to carve totem poles. But in any example, I have to be like a quick study. And that is almost what excites me as much as anything about this opportunity, is I really want to learn not only certainly how people define safety or the lack thereof, but like, what are we doing? What is working? What is successful?
Yeah, that's a great.
I'm not a sort of get rid of the police department kind of guy, but I am a police department shouldn't be expected to do everything kind of guy. And so what that means for Bloomington, I don't know exactly.
Got it. Thanks.
Since you have such a long history of working with Native American peoples, have you made any connections here locally to any of our Native groups? No.
I haven't, and almost sort of consciously so. I guess I say that only because I'm really, really, really heavily invested here, in terms of, you know, a big part of my life is here. If we were in a different setting, I'd show you my Haida tattoos and, you know, whatever. And I just said to somebody this morning, oh, I got to run back to where I stay because I'm doing this teleconference because I want to do something for my community. And it's like, for 30 years, I've invested in this community or ones like this, and I've never really invested in my own at home. And so I even forgot what the question was, but
it was whether you had any connections with the Native groups here.
Yeah, I have not consciously. I just feel so invested here that, and I also know that it's easy to get like, once I say, oh, I'm a grant writer, or, oh, I do program development, or whatever, I just am not, I would want to participate in a way that maybe that's different than what I currently do as a job. And I don't know what that would be, but.
Yeah, I understand.
We're running short on time. One question we'd like to ask is, do you have questions for us at all about anything?
The only question I wrote down, and we could certainly answer this over time, is whether there'll be any city staff support to the committee. If we need information or want something or whatever, will there be an avenue to get some support from city staff to?
Yes, the city council office staff will be on hand to help with the commission. We have 2.5 staff members, or 2.75, 2.8, something like that.
2.8.
So yeah, there will be some support.
Has there been interest in this committee? I mean, will you be able to fill the seats, you think, or not?
I think we'll be able to fill them. We don't have quite enough applicants yet, but we're getting there.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
It's a real pleasure to have you. Yeah, thanks for applying.
We'll get back to you.
Nice. When are we getting back to candidates?
Probably next week sometime.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. So you should hear from somebody from the clerk's office within a couple of weeks. Either way. So
thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Heidelberg, Alaska.
All right, so our next candidate is in the waiting room. So she is ready to go if the committee is.
Sure.
Ready if you guys are.
Hi, Najla. Hi, you're muted.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Isabel Piedmont Smith. I think we met on a previous meeting. And Susan Sandberg is here, City Council at Large, and Steve Volan representing District 6. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd just like to start by letting you know that CATS Public Access TV is recording this. So I just want to make sure that's all right with you before we proceed.
That's great.
Okay, great. So just as a little bit of background, since this is a brand new commission, the Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission, I wanted to just review the purpose and why we founded this commission. The goal is to try to better understand perceptions of public safety in Bloomington among demographic groups who don't normally have a seat at the tables of power, including city government. We also seek to improve upon current public safety systems through methods other than traditional policing, learning from programs that both successful and unsuccessful that have been tried in other communities. Our goal is to increase the safety of Bloomingtonians, especially those most vulnerable among us. So that kind of sets the theme for the CAPS Commission. And we just wanted to start by asking what appeals to you about this commission and why you'd like to serve.
Sure. I'm interested in serving on this commission because I've lived in this community for 25 years now, off and on, and it sounds like a good fit for me. I'm actually recently have gone from teaching full-time to managing my rental properties more and just teaching part-time. And so I'm actually looking for, more ways to give back to the community. And this seemed like a good fit when you mentioned it in the Neighbors United meeting. Specifically because I think I represent a lot of the marginalized groups that you mentioned that you're looking to represent, but I also represent other stakeholders in our community on the issue of public safety from a property owner standpoint. I also own and manage 2 rental properties in Bloomington. And have done that for several years. And my dad was a landlord before that, so I kind of grew up on the landlord business side of things. And so I think I can bring, a kind of unique perspective to the commission and to some of these issues.
Great. So you've been in Bloomington for many years. Is there anything that stands out to you that should be investigated related to public safety? Any issues that have come to the forefront in your mind?
I think that housing has become more of an urgent issue since I've lived here anyway. And so, that's one of the reasons I'm currently on the Sustainability Commission, and that's one of the reasons I'm working on a housing resolution there. And I know lots of people in lots of other places in the city, including City Council, are also, moving many efforts on that. I think housing is a big one. But also, I also, and I don't know, some of you I know me, some of you don't. I've worked in Bloomington, everything from, selling bagels at Howie's Bagels to running my own catering business to, teaching at Ivy Tech and teaching at IU. And, I think, I've seen some of the changes in this community from a lot of different perspectives. So I feel like I have empathy in a lot of diverse kind of buckets. I also personally identify as disabled and neurodivergent, and I'm currently working with the Neurodiversity Coalition at IU. I'm helping to develop some neurodiversity advocacy materials with them going forward. So I can, and I also have some disability activism experience. So I think I could bring I could speak to those issues somewhat. And maybe my past experience of sitting on the Sustainability Commission would help bring some, sort of experience and continuity about how other commissions run to the commission. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly related, public safety and sustainability. You can't have one without the other. So I think that would be a good liaison sort of thing.
And since I've lived here and I've played and I've been in so many different roles in this community, I've seen it from so many different angles now that I feel like I actually may have something valuable to contribute to the efforts. But besides housing, I mean, also, I think a basic part of it, having been in so many different communities, is just having, basic respect and dignity. And I think a big part of a safe community is a community where everyone feels respected and everyone feels safe. And so to me, like, dignity and respect, I know it sounds like, oh, these are like wishy-washy. Anyone can define, how do you define that? Yeah, it's hard. It's maybe difficult, but I think, having also traveled to 70 countries, I've lived in Istanbul, I've lived in Europe, and I've just seen things done in different ways. I think there's a lot that, that we can do to make our community safer and make everyone feel like a valuable member, which to me is really, a safe community where everyone really feels like they're an integral member of the community.
Why don't you tell us, give us an example of something that you've seen somewhere else in the world that is the kind of service or policy that you think ought to be adopted domestically and specifically local policy. Is there some kind of example that springs to mind when it comes to public safety? You said you've seen things elsewhere in the world,
One of the things I could mention that I don't know if it's something that we would actually end up doing here, but one thing that came up in the Neighbors United meeting, actually, when I was discussing the housing resolution there, was we were talking about the encampments. And one thing I've seen, and I don't know if it was meant to be a housing policy. I honestly don't know, but I suggested that I have seen some cities who have public encampments, like they have basically campgrounds, where it's legal for someone who's traveling through, because some people just want to do that, right? Some people just want to stay here a few weeks and maybe sleep in a tent, and that's one thing I've seen. I know it sounds bizarre, but like Istanbul, Eastern Europe, in a lot of those, it's just a different kind of culture where, camping outside isn't considered something scandalous, right? It's just something that you just consider a part of the municipal duties. And you just, like even in Denver, I think at Cherry Creek, they have it's like a state park, I think is how they run it. You've got to figure out who's going to be in charge of it. But, like I was just, thinking, and I live down here on this side of town where the encampments are. And, to me, it's just like, okay, well, if that's what people want to do, let's try to accommodate that and not scandalize it and, just help them be healthy and help them not destroy the environment, and just do our best to, so that's one idea. It's just totally off the top of my head. And obviously it's probably problematic in many ways, but that's just one thing that I had thought of before. So, yeah. It's
fine. I put you on the spot. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's one, because I don't see why if someone wants to just, you know, if someone wants to just sleep in a tent and stay here for a few weeks, why not, right? That shouldn't be, should that be against the law? You know, anyway, that's one thing I would possibly consider.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Susan, any
No, I'm listening very attentively. Thank you.
okay. So one of the things you said in your application is that you lived in Bloomington for more than 20 years, but it sounds like you have been, for lack of a better phrase, all over. Like you've traveled a lot. So, I mean, have you been back and forth, or have you been here continuously? Has this been your
I'm definitely what I call a bloomerang. So I was
many people call it that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I had to drop out of college for a couple years at DePauw, and I lived with a boyfriend here in Bloomington. And then
I don't mean to make you
I know. I feel like I'm gonna go, but anyway, no.
Yeah.
I basically have lived in Bloomington mostly, besides living in a few different countries, and then living in DC for a few years.
Okay, but just I mean, it seemed like.
But I've lived in Bloomington more than I lived in my hometown, which is Angola, Indiana.
Yeah. Well.
And speaking of this, I don't want to forget to mention this. I hope it works in my favor and not against me. But in between the time when we set this appointment and today, I actually have had to be involved with the police getting called to my rental properties for several different reasons.
Wow.
And they were extremely, I thought they helped me out, and they were extremely professional, and I have nothing but good things to say. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that I've had the displeasure of, you know, having to be involved with the police with my properties because of people trying to do squatting and, you know, various issues. So I also feel like I can speak to that end of things as well. You know what I mean? Because I think that, honestly, I think small landlords are an important stakeholder in this, you know.
It's good to know. I was going to ask another more sort of inside baseball question. You are on the Commission on Sustainability. Aren't you the chair this year? Or
Yeah, I'm temporarily the chair because Joe Newcomb was the chair and I was vice chair, and he decided not to run. And so, but then we were going to take new volunteers, but then we decided to wait until, because we have like 6 openings.
Yeah, that's we can get into that. I mean, that's a
so we decided to wait until our new members join. So I am the chair. I'm just running the meetings for a couple of.
That's not really. I mean, I appreciate the detail there, and you know, certainly that's a matter of concern. But I'm more asking. You know, it's not common that people serve on more than one commission. It's done. But can you talk for a bit about? You know, are you concerned at all that your work on sustainability might suffer because you're serving on a second commission? And I know that you want to give your all to the work that you do, but it can be a lot to juggle. How would you tackle that concern?
Yeah, well, honestly, I was already planning to try not to be the chair.
I forget that. I mean, that's an aside. I know that you're not the.
But yeah, honestly, I don't know if I'll continue to be on that commission, you know, for long either, because I know they like to rotate people sometimes, so I'm not sure how long I would be on that commission.
Are you a mayoral or a council?
I am a mayoral appointee. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if you had to choose one, which commission would you choose?
If I had to choose one?
If you could only choose one, and I'm not saying you have to, it's a hypothetical.
If I had to choose
designed to test you.
If I had to choose one,
I know, it's a tough one.
I mean, I haven't even started with this one, so I'm not sure. But I feel like public safety is more of an urgent need. maybe in some ways that it deals with more life-threatening, kind of urgent types of issues in some ways.
Sure.
And I feel like, frankly, with SPIA and everything, we've got a lot of people in this community. Sorry, I'm just getting out because the sun just decided to go in my eyes. So, but I think we got a lot of people in this community to help speak up for the environment. And I might be more uniquely suited to speak up for people.
I wondered about the sun because you have this beautiful forest behind you, and I thought, oh, that's really amazing, the effects they have now with the, you know.
I know, I'm in a dark forest, but the sun is shining like blindingly on me at the same
Well,
time.
look, the Public Safety Commission could be argued as being one of the three legs of sustainability, the social leg of sustainability. So
Definitely.
I don't know that it would be a dramatic difference for the work that you want to do. But again, I'm not saying that you can't serve on both.
Yeah, honestly, it might be a better fit for me. You know, the social equity part of sustainability was always, frankly, more, you know, my reason for joining. Yeah.
So I think that that's pretty clear. Yeah. Do you have any questions for us about the commission?
Is it called the Public Safety Committee or CAPS?
It's the Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission. So it's the CAPS Commission.
Because if you learn something wrong at first, it's hard to change it later.
That's true.
Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission?
Yeah.
That's why it's the CAPS Commission. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your consideration, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions for us before we go?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Well, we'll be in touch within a couple of weeks about your seat on this commission.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for applying. We appreciate the interview. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, how are we doing?
Doing well. Our next interviewee is here. She is Nicole Johnson. She's scheduled to start at 4:40, so there is a couple minutes if you all want to wait, or we can jump right in.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say a few words before we start with Nicole's interview. Nicole really took issue with the question, please describe your qualifications. I don't know if you saw that, but she really wrestled with it, and it brought up kind of bad things for her. So I don't know if we want to, ask her about that, or just maybe not ask her, but apart from her interview, maybe reconsider the questions for a CAPS commission, because for her it brought up like, oh, do you want me to check off, which of these am I, a domestic violence survivor, or a former, drug user, somebody who was homeless,
Leave the questions.
I kind of felt bad.
Just leave the questions open-ended. She's a talker. She's not shy. So just kind of keep it general. And I'm sure she'll provide us with all kinds of information as to what her motivations are, what she wants to do.
I mean, this is one of the hazards of, like we have to this has been a stock question for a very long time. And the new commission is, like taking on a very touchy and emotional subject. So, that's really a conversation for redesigning the form to take into account sensitive questions, ways we might rephrase things. But, I think we'll all be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's maybe revisit if we want to rephrase that later.
And happy to listen and observe.
Yeah, Susan, I never know whether I should, I don't want the person being interviewed to think that you're not getting a chance to ask questions.
Right.
That's why.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I truly am just benefiting from listening carefully.
Well, we may need to ask you to chime in just to say that much so that they know that you're not, being prevented from asking questions. So
I'm not shy either.
Okay. Okay,
All
good.
right, we are at 4:41, so I will go ahead and let her in now if the committee's ready.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Hello. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
I'm Isabel Piedmont Smith, City Council District 5. We also have with us Susan Sandberg, City Council at Large, and Steve Volan from District 6. The chair of our committee is actually Jim Sims, but he was unable to join us today. So we will just fill him in later. And before we go any further, I want to let you know that CATS Public Access Television is recording this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Nicole, for applying and for joining us. Just to start out with, I wanted to just read a paragraph that's an overview of what the CAPS Commission is all about. It's the Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission, as you know. And we established it because we're seeking to better understand perceptions of public safety among people in Bloomington, especially among demographic groups that don't usually have a seat at the table of power. We also seek to improve upon our current public safety systems through methods other than traditional policing, and by looking at what other communities have done successfully or unsuccessfully and learning from those efforts in other places. Our goal overall is to increase the safety of Bloomingtonians, especially those in the most vulnerable populations. So that's the context here. So I know you told us, you gave us a lot of information in your application, but
I'm a talker.
if you want to just briefly let us know what attracts you to this commission, what makes you want to serve?
I mean, honestly, what attracts me to this is a way to introduce alternative ideals into city government, period. For the first time, at least that I know of. My particular interest in this is that it's community-led and that we can make recommendations that another member of our government may or may not choose to pick up and, champion some information, a change in ordinance, let's say, that they might not choose or feel secure enough on taking on their own, but because they have a whole board behind them suggesting this change, and it's something they are indeed interested in, I feel like the CAPS Commission is absolutely a way to empower you guys as city council, personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I'm willing to put forward an effort in that empowerment. I mean, if you're going to offer to hear me, then yes, please, I would like to empower each other in the process to make change in our community that we share.
Great. Yeah, you talked in your application a lot about harm reduction.
Yes.
And can you just summarize for us how you view harm reduction as being part of public safety?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I share my screen? Do I have a capability of that?
I don't see why not.
I don't know. Let me see. No, it's not. Okay, so I can't. It's fine. Let me pull this up on my screen. I can just walk us through it. I have a thing that talks about, and it comes from SAMHSA. So their wellness.
I'm happy to grant
the
access
dimensions
for
of
screen
wellness.
sharing.
Nicole, we can have you screen share if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That would be great.
Give me 1 second, please.
Okay, you just let me know when to try.
Well, maybe. So it looks like I'm only able to make you a co-host, Nicole, in order to share your screen.
I don't know how everybody feels about all that. I I mean, seriously, I'm not just gonna be able to look at people while I talk. So ultimately, SAMHSA has 8 dimensions of wellness, right? And this is the National Council of Behavioral Health. So we're talking about all behavioral health, not just, this is mental health for all humans, right? And so we have obviously we have our emotional wellness. We also have our intellectual wellness, and our physical wellness, and our occupational wellness, and our spiritual wellness. And then we have our social wellness, and our financial wellness, and our environmental wellness. So these correspond very neatly and nicely with dimensions of community security. Actually, they're the same things, almost. So that being said, the way to break it down, when you look at the question, it just really takes the leap from looking at public safety or community safety or community security, right? So and there's a little bit difference when you look in the literature about they're using that terminology to discuss nuances about this. And it all comes down to people first language, or having the people who are being affected by what be part of that conversation, right? What we're doing right here. This exact example of what I'm trying to express. I mean, this is harm reduction. What you guys, and that's what I said in my letter pretty much, is the CAPS Commission is mitigation. It is absolutely mitigation. It's to try to find other points of view from who's being affected by these rules in a way that normally wouldn't be heard, right? So this is an attempt to open up that okay, let me just pull up my screen. There's this in order for any harm reduction intervention or any intervention, any kind of change, and we're talking about the science of change, so pull out harm reduction, and we're talking about change, which is right. So the science of change is there's 3 parts. There's setting. I had it all in my screens. I can't keep all of it straight.
That's okay. I mean, you don't have to go into.
It's okay. It's the heart, the head, and the hand, basically. So. Okay. And lots of times people talk about the hand and the head, right? Okay, we have to do this because it makes sense in our brain. But we forget about where the person is logically and what's important to them, or what they view as safe, or they view as whatever. So we can't help them if we're not taking that part of this situation into account. It's not going to empower change in general.
Yeah, I think that's what that fits well with the goals of the CAPS Commission, that we want to hear from people, and from their, how they feel, as well as what their experiences are. In the Pigeon Hill Pantry, do you have a group of volunteers that you coordinate for that?
I do. It's not right now. So Pigeon Hill Pantry is fledgling, right? So we have, I'm currently involved in that, and the Bloomington Residents Council. So now the Residents Council is super active. We're writing grants for all kinds of stuff for up here because we have rad conversions coming through. Got one that was just completed, another one's that's getting ready to come through that's updating a lot of things on property. And so we've written neighborhood improvement grants. We turned one in already, like the letter of intent for the city. We're doing another one for traffic calming. So we're trying to bring some other aspects of that renovation, right, to public housing and to the greater community. Pigeon Hill, actually, I'm getting ready to work with an individual about bike lane, a dedicated bike lane, or some sort of something, because what we're starting, those are the types of things that I've been dealing with up here. Then I've been assisting Bloomington Housing Bloomington Homeless Coalition, which with their semantics or their logistics. So we have a storage unit. And I've been doing all of the logistics as far as like organizing it for access. Like it's all set up, like, that's what me and all of the volunteers do. As far as, and then that is then accessed by other members of the Bloomington Homeless Coalition and all the outreach teams to then access as needed to get to people, right? So I am a team with the BHC. However, we have collective volunteers that do so I wouldn't consider everybody that I work with a volunteer. Some of them a lot of them are other organizers, a lot. And then there's a lot of college students and people on the periphery that want to be involved that we do offer volunteer opportunities for. And I'm currently trying to figure out how to reach out to my resident community, my neighbors, actually, for that aspect up here.
All right.
So you have a lot of experience working with teams of people, it sounds like.
I've been working with teams of people my whole life. Yeah, my resume doesn't go back past, coming to Bloomington. But before that, I was in the service industry since I was 15. I managed large groups of wild and unruly people. That's what's
all right. That's my next question. You are somebody who, just your application is just voluminous. There's a lot in there, mostly about harm reduction, but you clearly have you're very ambitious in your goals to improve the community. We definitely want that. So my question to you, you clearly somebody who is teeming with thoughts all the time,
right.
And you're about to be, and you've worked with teams, but you're about to be going to this commission that only has so much time in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're going to have to prioritize what things you want to get done. Okay. And that no matter what your capacity is for processing stuff, you have to work with commissioners who only have so much time in the day, only has so much capacity. So I challenge you to give me a sense of, if you had to describe succinctly what priorities you would have as a commissioner. Is it easy enough to say harm reduction?
I can tell you right now. I'm gonna echo Miss J to B and a lot of other voices in town, and I'm gonna say sell the Bearcat and buy a hotel and house our. And those are the types of things that I'm not looking at. When it comes to I think the Bearcat's unnecessary. I'm also not just looking at police. Okay, I'm also looking at the fact that my neighborhood kids can't get to the Boys and Girls Club from Tri-North without crossing giant streets of which they just directed all of city traffic through for a year when they closed 17th and never did any mitigation whatsoever for kids.
Okay, well now hold on a second.
There's all kinds of safety here.
Okay, but now you've just named that you've proven my point here. So the Bearcat's a big deal. A hotel for homeless is a big deal. Safety across 17th Street. All right. So it's the first meeting of the commission. Which item are you going to prioritize? Remember, the effort to get rid of the Bearcat, it might take so long that you might not get to those other things
right.
to deal with it. So how do you prioritize?
Well, you prioritize by looking at what you're closest to, and that depends upon we all have to sit down as a commission once we're put in and have that initial, and I would hope that my commissioners during that first meeting of where we've all put forth our own views, and it may be a few meetings, who knows? But where we start to all put forth our what's important to us, that we hear each other. That's the whole point. And then at that point, if you have 6 people who want to go for this and 6 people who want to go for that, then you know what's important for the group. And then you go, okay, of all the things that are most important from the group, this is what we're closest to. So let's start working on this for short term. Midterm goal, what's next? Do we want to stick with this goal? Do we want to work something from one of these other things? So that voices get heard. Maybe somebody who is in the second grouping, is in its list. Voices was heard, but not in this group. So you
the commission,
second priority,
Yeah, the commission can break down into.
Yeah, you
working
start
groups.
prioritizing, but I mean, at first, the first is to figure out how all of us as a group feel. So like, I can tell you how I feel, but I'm only one of 11.
That's what I was hoping to hear, and that's what I expected to hear. So, like, as long as you're, because I know how ambitious you are, and
I don't want. First of all, I'm gonna be let you guys know. Like, I don't want a full. This is. I already have my own.
I know.
I have a job. I want to have a voice. I don't want all of it.
Yeah, and I want to just emphasize that there are specific tasks assigned to the commission. So the commission is supposed to gather data about perceptions and preferences regarding public safety from people who are marginalized in Bloomington.
Right.
So it's not just the 11 opinions around that table that matter, but also gathering more opinions and feedback from people who have experience with public safety issues.
And that part is the part that I'm actually interested in. I have background in gathering data and managing data.
Great.
And so while I would need some refreshers and understanding on what systems are being used in the current, like if we just use Google Sheets or if there's something to be provided, I don't know. So like I would have to learn logistics and whatnot. But not only do I have a background in data, but I also have multiple individuals in our community, most of them associated with IU in various capacities, usually instructors or professors, in multiple across disciplines. So multiple disciplines. They're all interested in assisting us. So we have ample research. We have a research team just waiting. They're all like, what do you want to do? So I'm not too worried about that. I'm really interested in that aspect, though, in making the data. And that's kind of what I was trying to show with some of the slides from the TRAS. I'm going to share, if you guys don't mind, I would love to share a webinar that I went to at TRAS, and it was earlier this week, and it is currently, the information it went live. It's brand new, end of January, for the FSSA is putting it forth in Indiana for recovery, right? And it's mainly, obviously, substance abuse. But when you start watching it, if you don't actually know that at first, you're just like, recovery from what? COVID? Like, I'm serious. Like, you're like, this applies to everyone. Like, it's really good at kind of showing exactly what I'm trying to say in my letter. And like how like we're all recovering from a trauma, and with systemic racism just being classified as a public health threat on top of a public safety threat that we know it to be. And our Monroe County commissioners are even willing to say that they're working on drafting stuff right now. Like, yes, we are traumatized as like vulnerable populations in general are traumatized. So like this needs to be brought as a lens public safety, like in general. And that's what I'm basically trying to talk about in that letter about expressing my interests. Well,
if you want to send us the web link or whatever, you can always send that to council at bloomington.in.gov, and then it'll be forwarded to all the council members.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
I kind of am I know that like ultimately there'd be like a meeting that we have to attend, and then there would be duties that we obviously have to do in between that meeting. But as far as like dedicated, like scheduled time, we would have work sessions, right? We would still have work sessions like other commissions, like if we
So a work session really just helps commissioners prepare for the actual work that gets done in a regular meeting. So you shouldn't think of a work session as much more than, it might be a public meeting, but it's really just sort of previews of what's coming, and then the actual work gets done in however frequently you all decide to meet.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, your only duty is to show up. And
do the work.
Well, but I mean, what they all make of it is up to them.
ultimately, of course. And I feel you. And I mean, you know, that's something, you know, I'm going to be honest, like, I am very blunt, and I will bring things back to the table, or back to like what we're okay. Like, I'm so sorry that that's happened, but we're here to talk about this. Like, and like, that is something that, like, a lot of people, like, I don't know, I'm just blunt. I am. And sometimes I have to go back for being so blunt, but I'd rather not beat around the bush with people when it comes, especially when we're talking about, you know, something as important as like making a recommendation to change something in the city that we think is affecting someone's safety, right?
As long as we, as a majority of the commission,
right.
Like,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
is that
I mean, obviously,
we can't be the royal we or the editorial we. It has to be the literal we that's a majority of the commission.
well, I would kind of hope in the long run that we see our commission working on way more than a majority. You know what I'm saying?
I hope that too, but I
I'm going to
mean,
say that we're always going to agree on everything, but I truly hope that we're not as split as the council.
you know, but that's the thing is, you know, when in doubt, you have to have a majority, but it can be part of your goal to try to strive for a consensus.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes.
All right. Well, I
So,
That's right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and it was nice
and for applying.
to see your face after hearing you during public comment at our meetings, Nicole.
Because I always get to see your face, so I keep. You might not recognize me as much. Steve knows who I am.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get back to you within a couple of
Thanks for
weeks.
applying. We really
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Hello.
Hi.
So just to recap, our originally scheduled 5 p.m. slot is an individual who doesn't live within the city limits. So we have some time before the next interview, which is at 5:20.
Mhm.
Should we
Who is that?
I'm sorry?
disconnect?
Who is that?
The next individual is Alexander Mann.
And he's
And
our
he-
last person, right?
Yes, he is the last interviewee today. The originally scheduled person for 5:40 has withdrawn their application.
Okay. And if Alexander should show up sooner, be sure to let us know. We'll pop him in.
Will do.
Now, I don't know all the people who applied, obviously, but in looking at the applications, there's nobody here that's obviously an African-American individual, or do any of you know? I'm a little concerned that we don't have any Black people that applied, except for Valence, but she dropped out. Do either of you know, Susan? Steve?
No,
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
familiar with any of the names.
So that's unfortunate. And we need more applicants anyway. So now we're down to what? 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I think that we're just going to
8.
keep the process open and promote the existence of the commission until it's full. You
But
know,
they could start probably if they had 8.
perhaps, but you know, we haven't even gotten through this process yet. You know, we shouldn't necessarily assume that because somebody's applied and there are seats open, that will necessarily appoint everyone who applied. So
That's true.
Now, I had urged Kay Goodman to apply. I don't know why she hasn't. She works with Macam. I have encouraged Antonio Jackson from Made Up Mind to either apply himself or to someone from his organization to apply. I don't know why they haven't.
Yeah, those both sound good. I've tried to reach out to Forrest to see if he could recommend anybody from Shalom, but I haven't heard back from him.
I see Sue has joined us. Is she listening in?
We can chat
I
with
see.
her while we're waiting.
No, you can ignore me if you want. That's okay.
No, of course not.
No, I was just part of public safety when the conversation started. So I just wanted to support and encourage and be interested.
Okay. Any suggestions for people you can recruit?
What do you think of Jean Kapler?
I think she's great. I think she's somebody who is kind of already plugged into city government because she's
Yeah,
on the
true.
USB. But yeah.
Because I thought just by virtue of her background, that could be interesting. But no, how many applicants are we up to total?
8. I mean,
Okay.
we had
active?
more, but some of them were not in city limits. So
Ah, okay. Understandable.
now I'm going to check my work email.
Yeah. I'm going to disconnect briefly. I'll stay on, but just going to.
Just before you go, I don't know if you'd all heard that John's father passed away this morning.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm very
So-
sorry to hear that.
So very, very sad. Yes. So he was actually an interim pastor briefly at my church during a very tumultuous time. So I knew him in that context, but apparently,
John Hamilton's father?
yes.
Oh,
So anyway, just a bit of sad news and context.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, that's sad news. Okay, I will be back in a couple minutes, but I'll stay online.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
Looks like Alex has entered the waiting room. So if folks want to hop back on, we could get started early.
Thanks.
I'll wait for Steve if that's all right.
Yeah.
Isabel and Susan, it occurs to me that I should have asked this sooner, but does my being here create any confusion or awkwardness about who's doing the interviewing or anything? I mean,
No.
because I was just honestly interested and wanted.
Yeah.
Is that okay if I stay or?
Sure. We just have one more. We had a cancellation.
I'm
So
sorry.
this will be our last one, but yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
feel
I mean,
welcome to.
that's still just 4 council members, so I think we're okay.
Oh, that's right. Gosh, I got to remember that. Okay.
Well, this was a publicly noticed meeting, was it not?
Of the committee, yeah.
Oh.
The Women's History Month honorees just came out. Penny Caudill used to get an award. Kathleen Weber and Abby Ang. That's great. Steve, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Would you like to show yourself? Because our interviewee is here.
Yes, I would.
All
Very
right.
good.
I will let him in now.
Alex, are you there? It's so strange. I don't see a microphone next to his name.
He's connecting to audio, it says.
Oh, he's working on it. Okay. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Isabel.
Long time no see.
Yeah, right. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Welcome.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Alex. Good to see you.
So,
And hello, everybody else.
Susan Sandberg is the other council member joining us today.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
And Jim Sims is actually the chair of this committee, but he was unable to join us today. So we will just be reporting back to him. So thank you for joining us. Before we go any further, I just want to let you know that CATS Public Access TV is recording this. So hopefully that's not an issue.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And just to start us off and put it in context, I wanted to read a little bit from the memo that went with the creation of this ordinance, or this commission, I'm sorry.
Right.
The Community Access or Community Advisory on Public Safety Commission. So our goal in creating this commission is to better understand perceptions of public safety in Bloomington especially among demographic groups that don't usually have a seat at the table. We are seeking to improve upon our current public safety system through methods other than traditional policing, and look at what other communities have done successfully or unsuccessfully, and learn from those lessons. Overall, our goal is to increase the safety of Bloomingtonians, especially those who have been marginalized in society. So with that in mind, would you like to just let us know why you applied for the commission, what appeals to you to serve in this way?
Yeah, I'm just very pleased to see the council create a commission with that kind of mission statement. And I've got experience with some of the more vulnerable communities through my work at Community Kitchen. So I got to know a lot of the people experiencing homelessness, but not just, people like that. Plenty of people with homes, with jobs, who still needed the services of the kitchen. So I got to know a little bit how diverse the demographic is of our most vulnerable populations. And I've got some lived experience myself with chaotic drug use. And I've been in recovery for over a decade now and feeling stable about that. And I've worked with the Indiana Recovery Alliance. And the whole approach of harm reduction is something that has kind of I don't know, that's a great approach, I think, to a lot of issues. And I think this commission can serve in that respect. I think my experience with the Indiana Recovery Alliance, put me in touch with another segment of vulnerable population that doesn't often get a voice. That's mostly people who use drugs, but also, associated communities, people in the sex work industry, especially queer and trans folk, people who really don't have a voice anywhere. And unfortunately, a lot of them feel unwelcome at the Indiana Recovery Alliance, which is doing great stuff, but there's internal political stuff there too, where they don't feel safe, even at an agency that's supposed to be safe for them. So I'd like to, address issues like that as well. I think that falls under the umbrella of public safety. Before this summer, I was working with a few people in town on creating a program similar to the Cahoots program, and that you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
So I was talking to Sarah Kathleen, who I believe is on the Fair Housing Commission, and also Hannah Watt and Dave DeBrooker, who are both studying to be social workers, and who both have experience also with the Indiana Recovery Alliance and Community Kitchen. The four of us were exploring starting something like that. And I think being a part of this commission, I could be a great bridge between, people having those ideas and actually implementing them. If, that is a goal of this commission, to implement those kinds of groups, those kinds of first responders as alternatives to police. So those are just a few specific things.
Yeah, that was all.
Kind of relevant.
Yeah, those are all compelling reasons why you would be a good fit, I think, for this commission.
Alex, I wanted to follow up on that, if Isabel, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think I see you in your application sort of walking this fine line that not sure what you're like. You would rather that the most vulnerable and marginalized be the voices on the commission, but barring that, you're sort of a plan B. But I mean, you also just mentioned, for example, that even the IRA has political dissension. So like, how do you sort of think about whether you should or shouldn't be on the commission? I mean, it seems like, you know, you're a prime candidate, and yes, yet you sort of would defer to the more marginalized. I don't like, can you think out loud about that for a minute?
Yeah, I guess I'm just realistic about who's going to apply, and how to get people whose direct lived experience, needs to be represented. How do we bridge that gap? Ideally, those people represent themselves. And I've already, even tried myself to kind of reach out and say, hey, have you heard about, CAPS? Would you be interested in applying? Things like that. And I haven't gotten a lot of response either. So I do realize that I'm in a position where it's a lot more accessible to me. And I do have a lot more resources in that I can devote the time and the energy. And, I could be a good bridge between those voices and, the council.
Well, but I think that goes to a more general question about representation. Do you think that you would, no matter who is on the commission, not everybody can be on the commission, and therefore they have an obligation to represent. So like do you have problem being a representative? And B, I've already forgotten B. Let's just start with that. Do you have a problem being one of those representatives? Oh yes, B is, do you graduate from being one of these marginalized groups? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And I was thinking about that today before this meeting, in that I have to remind myself that I was one of these, a member of a marginalized group, that my life was absolutely, completely more marginalized than it is now. And now I enjoy stability. And so, yeah, do you graduate? I don't know. Can I still be a voice for those underrepresented? I do think that I can, and I don't have a problem representing them. My only hesitancy would come in feeling as if those that I'm trying to speak for aren't convinced that I have their interests in mind, right? So that's why I've already started reaching out to people saying like, hey, I'm going to be another cis-het, middle-aged white dude on another city commission here, but I'm professing to speak for the most vulnerable. And I just, I'm reaching out to you just to try to build a bridge, but also see if you think that that's doomed to begin with, or if you care, just try to get some kind of dialogue going.
So that's it. Thanks. It's not an easy question to answer, but you raised a really good one just by your application. But a follow-up to that is there's a certain inherent skepticism that people whom this commission would serve would have to any commission that's in City Hall.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit about how you might make the meeting feel safer for its members, let alone the rest of the public that it's trying to serve?
Make sure they know. Yeah. Just try to make sure that they know that I'm trying to approach this always keeping in mind at every step who's going to get left behind, right? At every step, who's going to still feel unsafe. That's the mindset I try to bring to it. And I don't know how I go about convincing people that those are my motives.
Maybe I could ask you, what do you think we should do, if anything, to make the commission, the physical meeting space, even after it's virtual, to make the meeting space feel safe enough for that necessary dialogue to happen?
That's a good question. Maybe a neutral setting is the first thing that comes to mind for me. A neutral setting and a day and time options and this is nearly impossible to accomplish, I understand, but day and time options that are also accessible to people, because those are, some of the barriers that I hear people talk about when they say, well, I would like to participate maybe in a meeting or an open meeting, a public meeting, or even in the commission. But, the times are limited. Can't make it fit around my work schedule. And also it can be intimidating going onto, city property, government buildings, anything like that. Maybe more neutral, more public space.
Well, the commission could definitely meet at the library.
Right.
It could meet, it doesn't have to meet the same time every month. It could meet alternate times so those are certainly things that could be done. I think the commission would have to decide that. Yeah.
And that's easy. That's like very logistical kind of stuff that I understand isn't
no, but that doesn't
useful answer right now.
Yeah. No. It's a good answer.
But just those are the first things that spring to mind. And I mean, that's kind of one of the things I want to maybe get a better handle on by participating, if it turns out, that works out, is this question of how do entities like a council or commission really reach the people that they're, sincerely trying to serve? How do you really remove those barriers?
Well, and I'd like to point out that one of the charges of this commission is to gather data about how people feel about public safety in Bloomington, how people from marginalized demographics feel about public safety. So it's not, we listed some demographic groups that we were trying to bring in, but it's not like, we have to check off all these boxes for the people that are on the commission, but those are just examples of the type of people we want commissioners to go and ask and talk to and bring feedback from.
Right. And yeah, I would feel very confident in being able to gather that kind of data, firsthand, and also, get to delegate a little, but just, knowing the people that I do, among the agencies that I do that serve these populations, it seems to me that would be something I could offer.
Yeah, I think those connections are really important. And it's exciting to me that you were working with 3 other people on, brainstorming some alternate, community emergency response, like the Cahoots program. So maybe I'll get with you in any case and see what you found out, because that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, we just really got into the initial stages of research and planning before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, that slowed everything down.
Yeah.
Another question I'd like to ask is, can you offer us an example of your thinking by describing, maybe some of the, we actually asked this of the previous applicant. I don't think quite as rhetorically ambitious as she was, but I imagine you have a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts. What do you think might be your initial priorities for the commission? Obviously, the commission has to coalesce. They have to have a couple of meetings first to get their feet on the ground. But could you describe a couple or 3 things of points of view or problems that you think need the most immediate addressing by a commission like this? What's on top
I
of your
think,
mind?
yeah. I think number one would be to how quickly can we actually implement an alternative first response team for mental health crises instead of the police. I think taking that off of the police department's plate would benefit everybody. I think police would appreciate that. Number one is how to create an effective response to mental health crises. That's not the police who's not trained in that. We offer something like that Cahoots program, but we got a group of social workers, a group of people with some kind of experience with those kinds of I don't want to say high risk situations, but mental health crisis type situations. That would be number one. And number two would be really trying to get some oversight and accountability for the police when it comes to support for programs like the Rise and Middle Way House and programs that deal with domestic abuse. Because from my experience there, and also from what I've heard from people who continue to work there, there's not a lot of consistency when it comes to how the police kind of treat that. And I see a space like the Rise or, transitional housing or anything, that Middle Way offers as something that has to feel like one of the safest spaces in town, because you're going there to escape some kind of abuse. And when the police presence is less than sympathetic to the survivors inside and can sometimes even take the attitude of, well, I'm not going to get between a husband and wife, that's their business, when it's basically the law that you can't let an abuser walk into a place like that. Those kinds of holes in security, that's something that stood out to me and something that I wanted to, put on the table as well. And third would be the houseless population, which nobody has any kind of quick, easy answer for, but we do have a great amount of resources in town, and anything we can do to prevent just sweeping away tents when people have them up, or just those kinds of dangerous kinds of security actions. Anything we can do to improve on just how the city responds to those kinds of homeless and houseless crises, that would be up there for me too.
That's a great set of answers, and it's the kind of thing I think that the commission needs. So thanks for that.
Sure.
Yeah, of course, the commission members would, kind of all give their ideas of priorities, and hopefully it would gel into one or two things, and
Right.
and then reach out to different constituencies for support as well.
But I mean,
So,
it's not a
thank you for
one-time
sharing.
thing, it's just the initial.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're hoping this commission will be around for a while, because certainly these problems require a while.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Absolutely.
questions for us about the commission?
I don't think so. I don't have a lot of experience with anything city run like that, or council run, and anything like that.
That's a good question, actually. It's first of all, this is a new commission, and I created the last new commission, and when the commission is brand new, like no one's run it before, and I think that Isabel's intent was for this commission to tell us what to do. So it's going to be up to the 11 of you to run it, to decide what's important, to figure out how and what you're going to advocate. And we're kind of counting on you to do that, because if we knew what needed to be done, we'd be doing it. You know, so.
But there will be some staff support from the city
Certainly.
council staff to help, you know,
Certainly.
organize things. And we've also had some people already say they would be willing to help, you know, with doing research and data collection and stuff. So I think there's some support.
So there will be some, you know, some bureaucratic clerical support. We're certainly not going to just drop you in and abandon you. And you should feel free to call on any of us, you know, if you have questions about how things should work or how things do work or where things are. But yeah, like this is a really good example of a case where it's a new commission and you can say that it's sort of city run, but it kind of isn't. It doesn't exist yet. And even then, we're hoping that it won't be city run, it'll be commissioner run.
Community run.
Right.
So I hope that helps.
It does. Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you, Alex, very much for spending some time talking with us about the commission. And
yeah, of course.
We will be getting back in touch with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for advocating for the commission, for, you know, getting this going. Really do appreciate that.
Well, we definitely appreciate you applying, and we particularly appreciate you beating the bushes, asking if there's anybody else who wants to apply.
We need some more applicants.
You know,
we need some more applicants. So please keep
doing that. But we'll let you know within a couple of weeks. I mean, we'll have more interviews to do next week. So.
All right. Thank you.
Again.
All right.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Thanks, Isabel.
You know, it just occurred to me that Jim could actually watch these on Cats if he wants to catch up with the interviews. Not that he has all that time on his hands. But.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pop off here pretty soon. Good start. I think we pick up on Friday morning. Is that right? We have people scheduled from.
Yes.
Oh, we say 10:30 to.
Still confirming, but yes.
10 to 11:30.
10 to 12 was the reserved time period.
Good.
So we'll try to fit in as many people as possible.
Good.
Hey, all right.
Well, so by my count, we've interviewed 1, 2, 3, 4 today. We've got 4 more who are still live. Is that right?
Actually, only 3.
4 more applications. Which 3?
Is that?
Heather, Philip, Renee.
Give me 1 second.
Philip is not in city limits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Mateo, Renee, and Heather.
Sorry, I missed Mateo. Okay.
Okay.
So we have 7. So we need to put out another call, ask people to apply. Maybe we also need to start personally inviting people to apply.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to start doing that if I can.
I'm going to rack my brain. All right. Well, I guess we'll. I never officially called the meeting to order, damn it. Anyway, so I don't have to officially adjourn either, I guess.
Thank you all.
Are we okay?
We're okay. I will circulate the action memo for signatures.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
All right.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.